Hey, welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Pubcast After Hours, now under the Chaos Included YouTube channel. I'm glad to have you here with us. I got one of my best friends, Steven Senpai, right here beside me. And this whole thing started out tonight, as always with After Hours. It's never a planned recording. Sometimes we just be hanging out, talking about bullshit, and things come up, and we're like, oh, this is quality. We should just record this in the After Hours.
Absolutely.
So, as it was tonight, we just got done playing a fun game called, what the fuck was that game called?
Perfect Heist 2.
Perfect Heist 2. And God, I have not laughed that much in a game in forever.
It was wild. It was an unexpected, enjoyable experience. And the number of people we got involved actually just like made it better as we stepped up.
Yeah, I was really so when I was planning out doing this tonight, I was looking all over the Steam page, like how many people can you support in a lobby. I think the number might be 16, but I couldn't find it at the time, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just get everybody I can. All the reviews were like, the more people you have, the better of a game it is. So I was like, all right, well, so I think at one point tonight we had like 10 people in there playing in our lobby, and it was madness, and it was the most fun I've had in the game in a long time since maybe Among Us came out. That was the last time like I felt that like I just fucked you over.
Like there's nothing better than having that moment because for those that don't know, that like this game plays out like there's NPCs that exist in this game, and you have to work your way around them. I'm not going to get into finer details, but you have to work your way around NPCs. And some of these NPCs trackings is very humanistic. Like it's like, here's this little tiny like space you can pass through. And as a human player, you would be like, I'm going to sneak through there real quick. But the NPCs normally would be like, I'm going to track around it. No, not in this game. They will go through the most unexpected shit. Yeah, you'll be like, that's some dumb shit. I'm gonna shoot that guy. Oh, you've lost.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Like the NPCs totally do some human like stuff, like stand still and turn in like a fucking 720-degree double circle.
Absolutely. They'll do some like Tony Hawk like 1080 bullshit. Like get a half pipe in here and we'll believe it. But no, it's a great experience. It's a little bit like sussing things out, and sometimes it's like outright aggression,
right?
You know, that's a possibility. Like the game allows a lot of different play styles, and I welcome it. I welcome it into my world of like disappointing results on my side,
right?
Because I didn't do well.
so we played that for I don't know, like 3-4 hours or
3 hours, yeah, 3 hours.
And that was and I like didn't even want to get off in the end. Like I was having so much fun, but we did, and I went to YouTube to check our channel, just see if we had any new views. No dumb shit that I do late at night.
Weird obsessive shit. You do. As a content creator, you're just like, I'm curious what people are looking at right now.
Yay, one new view.
Hey, take it, bro.
Actually, our view count has more than quintupled in a matter of 48 hours because we decided to start doing shorts.
Yeah.
And apparently that's the way to go.
Yeah, but you throw a short of the senpai Bonsai Steven up on the shorts
with a chipmunk voice.
I love the fact that it says parentheses middle-aged chipmunk voice, not like chipmunk voice. It just says middle-aged. You motherfuckers went and labeled me.
So I got on YouTube to do that, and then I was on the homepage, and I always see something that catches my eye on the homepage of YouTube, and this one said Justin Long's new movie, and I'm a huge Justin Long fan, and so I automatically clicked on it, and I thought it was going to be something dumb and funny and whatever, and then it quickly turned into like a horror movie trailer. And I was like, oh, I like horror movie is like my bag, dude. Like that is the shit I live for. I've watched so many horror movies. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately I like posted it to our Discord, and I was like, hey, you got to check this out. And then Steven over here is like, oh yeah, I already saw it. It's great. Because Steven somehow, some way works like 100 hours a week, but also consumes every movie, every TV show, every anime, reads every manga, and like I
It's
cannot keep up with this man at
yeah,
all.
no, it takes a lot of effort to do that sort of thing, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but like I love the marketing of this movie. This is a movie called Barbarian. For those that do not know,
We'll put a picture up on the screen.
absolutely, and so this is Justin Long's newest movie, and it is absolutely a roller coaster of things you do not expect. Um, the way it starts is not how you expect. The people present in the first part of the movie are not what you expect, and the people who come in along the way and how the whole thing progresses is just really very big into subterfuge. Like it, it really kind of, so when you watch this trailer, which I love the fact that they actually sold this as Justin Long's newest movie. Let's be real. Like people love Justin Long. Like you look back and his horror pedigree is fantastic. Look at Tusk. Were you a fan of Tusk? Like
Tusk, Tusk kind of freaked me out, but I loved it.
yeah. So Tusk was equal parts body horror and comeuppance to a degree. Because like for those that don't know, like when Kevin Smith made this horror movie called Tusk, where it's this whole thing about this guy who was saved by a walrus, and this cynical, just douchebag podcast kind of, you know, host decides to kind of get in on the which hits a little too close to home. He decides to get into this, and he finds out about this this guy, and he goes to interview him, and then he gets kind of dragged into some scarier shit that happens. If you haven't watched Tusk, watch it. Is like I really hate to ruin anything involving horror, because horror is predicated on its weird twists.
Dude, and it's got so many like big actors in it for being just like a random ass Kevin Smith. It's got Michael Parks, Johnny Depp, Haley Joel Osment, like
yeah, it has
and
some,
of course Justin Long. Yeah,
it's got some surprising additions to the cast. It's clear that Kevin Smith basically called in his favors, because he's got fucking like hands around everybody in the industry
yeah.
except for Bruce Willis, if you count Cop Out, because it didn't go his way.
No, it did.
But Barbarian is actually kind of in this new vein of horror that exists. So I want to go ahead and take the chance to kind of transition into a little bit about horror in general. We love horror movies here at the Chaotic Podcast, Chaotic Underground, Chaotic included. It doesn't matter.
Chaos included, man. Get the brand right, dude. We're gonna fire you.
What the fuck? Like, I had to remember so much. I remembered all three. Wait, you should be fucking proud of me. But no, there's multiple genres of horror in my opinion. There is traditional slasher horror films.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking Halloween,
Scream, Texas
Friday the
Chainsaw
13th.
Massacre.
Yeah, absolutely. You get into psychological horror, which is probably that's a hard one for me. Like you got some titles to drag out. Like what are you thinking?
So there's a thin line, right? There's a thin line between like a thriller, like a good suspense thriller movie, and a psychological horror movie. Like there's part, I don't know why this was like the first thing that come to mind, but like there's parts of Shutter Island that are almost like a psychological horror, but it's really more of like a suspense thriller, right?
Is it more of that case of like you have an unreliable main character?
Yeah, your narrator is very biased to like one point of view that is wrong. I would say probably one of the most like current iconic, and I have a mixed take on this movie actually, but the current like iconic like psychological thriller would be like Hereditary, Midsummer. I personally,
okay,
Hereditary as a movie, fine. It's it's good. But people hype that movie up to be like one of the best horror movies like of all time. And I
Wanna know
just
why?
because of one fucking
One
scene
scene.
that was just,
One scene.
that was just a scene that made you go ooh.
Oh yeah, no, it was such a shocking scene that didn't pull. So here's the difference. This kind of thing has been treaded before, but it's always been off screen.
Mhm.
This is the first time that this kind of material has been shown on screen. Like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Spoilers for Hereditary. All right. Little girl.
If you haven't
in this,
seen it by now, you don't
yeah,
like horror
like
movies.
seriously, like absolutely. The little girl sticks her head out the window at the wrong time, gets fucking decapitated by a telephone pole, and it shows you like her head off her body, like covered in flies, like that sort of thing. It's very intense. And the whole point of what he's getting at, like, and this is one of the things why I want to say with detail, psychological horror, absolutely, Hereditary is there, but it's not because of that one scene. It's there because of how the family handles things. And that's that thing that really kind of like sticks out to you. The mother doesn't know how to handle the kids and her relationship with her husband and like their difference in like workloads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you get that tension. You feel it. You feel it from that kind of like, oh, this relationship is not going well. This relationship is having trouble. Is having a little bit of tension. You feel it, and then you throw in things like extreme circumstances, like your daughter has just died.
Yeah.
Your son is responsible. Like, how do you process that? Then you throw in things like a fucking like witch cult that has something to do with it. So you have that certain level of like supernatural that comes in to make that psychological horror like push a little harder, a little bit rougher, and you get that high intensity. It's the same thing in the Midsummer, which is like both a cultural study.
That's my girl, Yelena.
Yelena. Oh, we're going to celebrate Midsummer. But no, like the whole fucking series, the whole like set of movies with them, is built on this whole like kind of like constant tension that builds up, and then you have supernatural that pops in at the last second. Yeah, let's be real. Hereditary, completely normal tension and intensity for real life, and then supernatural at the end kind of explains some things. Same thing with Midsummer. Like, oh, we're gonna go on a vacation. We're gonna go do things. There's a tense moment as you deal with that, and then weird supernatural shit, weird cult shit, like whatever.
So when I think of psychological horror, like obviously like that's classified as one. Like I said, it's mid, right? Like when I think of a classic, like Misery, right? Like
that's a good choice.
It's a really good one. I would honestly classify in more recent films, I would classify all of Jordan Peele's films as psychological horror.
Absolutely.
Get Out, Us, Nope. All psychological horror.
What Get Out,
Us.
That's the other one.
And Nope. Yep. I watched Us in theaters like right when it came out, and I didn't vibe with that one as much as I did Get Out, and then Nope later on. And then I just rewatched Us like a few days ago, like literally like a week ago, and started like really seeing the underlying message. And I was like, holy shit, this is a really good movie. I don't think I caught it as well the first time, but I had a chance to like, now that I knew what happened, I got to go back and see it again. And it was really interesting the second time around. And it started to come together for me.
It's wild to me that they had Jordan Peele host the newer Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And like he should have just wrote the whole fucking thing. Like, frankly, because his stories are probably the most Twilight Zone-esque kind of stories. that we've seen in decades. Like let's be real, like it's so I also want to highlight the fact that it's super weird to have literally like a guy that's one half of the most like ridiculous
Funny.
a funny like sketch shows. Like, okay, I'm gonna go on record and say Dave Chappelle show is great, but
if Dave Chappelle came out and said, "Hey, I'm writing a horror movie," you'd be like,
eh. But here's the thing is like Key and Peele did some shit that I was blown away by in comedy. Like there's the whole thing of like the what is it, the valets that are talking about like Game of Thrones and they're getting like fucking like hyped on the like on the stoop. They're like, Khaleesi, let's go. Like they're so fucking pumped for it. And I love that kind of thing. Like and like Dave Chappelle's period was good, but Key and Peele was great. And then you had these guys that go on and like make these very different experiences. So like Peele goes off and makes these like iconic horror films. Let's be real. Get Out, Us, and Nope have all three like just like blown the horror world out of the water.
Yep. Well, you got to think about it like in a cultural sense, like for the most part, horror movies over the past 30, 40, even further years, like there's been like one black guy and he's like that token black guy who like gets killed off first, right? And he makes like these black centric movies where like they're the protagonists and like they're the ones who survive, they're the ones in the situation, and yeah, it's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
And for good reason, right? Like, yeah, we're finally seeing some diversity in our fucking horror movies. I really, really enjoyed Nope. I just watched it literally 3 weeks ago or so. Like, it's very recent, and I thought it was great. But I keep fiending for like that next horror movie that's like, oh my god, this is like my favorite horror movie of all time. Which brings me to like, what is, if you had to name like your favorite horror movie, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. So I'm gonna throw myself out there. This is a little bit weird. My favorite horror movie is not necessarily like in a traditional like supernatural horror movie. It's actually Orphan.
Oh, Orphan's great.
So Orphan is fantastic because if you don't know what's happening going into the movie, the moment it switches over is a shock. It's wild. And it's probably one of the few movies I was like, okay, I know this is technically sort of a pseudo like thriller slasher film, and it's not what I expected. Like it to me, it strikes that zone of Alfred Hitchcock, because that's the horror that I liked. I liked the horror of like when you talk about Psycho, and you have this like amazing scene with like the shower curtain being pulled back, the knife coming down over and over, like killing this girl. Like you don't know what's going to happen. So when it is revealed what happens in Psycho, you're like, what? It's a fairly kind of like reasonable, like human moment. Amazing. Same thing with like what is it, Rear Window? Have you ever watched Rear Window or anything like that?
Never seen it.
So have you ever seen the movie Suburbia? What is it? Disturbia, I think is the name of it.
Wait,
with
was this with Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah. So Shia LaBeouf Disturbia movie is literally a remake of Rear Window.
Oh, okay.
So the concept of Rear Window is this guy basically ends up breaking his leg. He can't go anywhere, and all he does is he starts to become obsessed with watching out his window at his neighbors with his binoculars. And he's watching one of his neighbors, and he thinks he sees him doing something evil, like murder and things like that. And so he starts trying to tell
like
people
murder.
Hey, don't fucking patronize me, you motherfucker.
He
I
does
swear.
something a little evil.
Look,
like murder.
I don't know what the level of evil we're talking about here. All right. We're not talking like Dahmer where he like fucking like coax people into his apartment and
He
turn
does
them into
something
snacks.
a little evil, like he didn't pay the toll. He didn't put any change in the parking meter.
No. Get the fuck out of here. I got pissed.
And he's gone. So anyway, with that being said, I would say that my favorite horror movie is probably Marvel's Eternals. But that's mostly because of the performance by Jon Snow. Like, not once did he acknowledge he was a Targaryen. He didn't even try to face any White Walkers. It was just really awkward the whole time. I was just like, John, what are you doing? Then he finds some random sword, and I don't know. It was all confusing from there. Blade talked to him. I was like, we should probably just stop that, right? Like, somebody needs to get him back on track before Daenerys fucks everything up.
There we go.
All right. My favorite, because we're way over time. My favorite horror movie. There's definitely some great horror movies in the past, but one of mine is more recent, kind of. But it is the Sinister series, man.
That is a great series of films.
God,
that
dude.
does not get the attention it deserves.
I think it does. I mean, like,
You think so?
I'm in a few like horror groups and stuff, and I think people appreciate Sinister for what it is. But dude, that is the like most horror movies. I like I said, I watch a ton of horror movies. Most of them, I sit there the whole time and I'm like, ooh, that was kind of scary. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and then at the end, I'm like, oh, that was a good movie. At Sinister, I was like, holy shit, this is actually like really freaking me out. And like at the end, I'm like, that was a fucking crazy movie.
So one of the things about Sinister that I always tell people is like, it's actually scary.
Yeah.
Like it makes you go, oh, I'm terrified. Like I don't care what anybody says. Like Sinister 2 might like not hit the same way because it's not Sinister 1, and that's a whole original versus sequel thing.
Right.
Like you've seen one, so you know what's coming in the second to a certain degree.
It's kind of like dude, do you remember when Paranormal Activity first came out?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, wait, was this real footage? Or was it not? Kind of the same shit with like Blair Witch Project, right?
I was gonna say, like, here we are at Blair Witch Project levels, because like that's for me, that was the first like found footage, like crazy, like made you really kind of like feel a little bit icky inside kind of like movie. And for me, so like when Paranormal Activity came out, I was like, I've seen you before. Yeah. I'm not bothered. And then at the end of the movie, I was like, I'm still bothered. I'm a little scared. Like there's that moment where the thing is thrown against the fucking like camera. Like it's terrifying. It's terrifying. But it also suffers from the same thing that Blair Witch did, where it was like, hey, we did great with this one. Let's keep going, and that sort of thing. And it's like, I don't think they're bad. Found footage is always challenging. Found footage is both scary, exciting, and its own thing. There's so much to really unpack. Like we're talking about like going over time on this thing, but like horror is a whole ass thing.
I think we should do a part 2, because we are in spooky season, right? Like we're in October. I think this is relevant, and I think it's something that people would like. I mean, I would like to hear this from someone else, right? Like we're recommending a lot lot of good movies here, right? Like the Sinister series. We've
talked about Blair Witch. We've talked about Barbarian. We've talked. I haven't even hit X or Pearl or any of those things. Like we're talking, we talked a little bit about the mainstays like Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I will put some IMDb links in the description below. So make sure you check out these movies if you want a good, nice, spooky horror Halloween month. I cannot stress how much I love horror movies, and I can't wait. There's so many, like you said, we haven't even touched on. I have some crazy ones that just like kind of shook me to my core, but we were kind of like working.
Are you talking about a Serbian film or
No,
Martyr?
because I'm not a big gore slasher fan. Like I don't really care for that. I don't need that. Like that's not super scary to me. That just makes me go ooh. Like
it just makes you feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. Like I watched all those movies. Like I would say, last thing I'll say, I would say the original Saw, 100% psychological horror.
Absolutely 100% psychological.
And like so the first one, like psychological horror, was here, and then like gore slasher was like here, and then as those movies progressed, it just went like this, right?
Yeah, you get the ratio change, and that's fair enough. Is because like it benefited from being unknown, and that is the case for things like Barbarian and X. These movies that are coming out, they are doing things that are unknown to the genre, and so what you're seeing is people are like really latching onto this sort of genre, not realizing how much it's interesting, it's shocking, it's surprising, but if you continue to do it, it won't be nearly as shocking and surprising. Right. This is the danger of horror. This is the reason why, like when you have 7 to 10 Friday the 13th and like Nightmare on Elm Street, they don't hit the same. Though I will say that Nightmare on Elm Street, I think it's 3 Dream Warriors. Oh, I love that movie.
So this is one I will leave with you because I doubt you've watched it. I've been literally like, you see me looking over instead of looking at you. The whole reason I've been digging through my Netflix history of like what I've watched. I just made it back to February, and I finally found what I was looking for. So when you were talking about found footage, a good one that I found on Netflix, it's called Archive 81.
Yes, that's a good one. Yes. Yeah, I'm aware. Like, so it's one of those little known things about me is I love horror films. I love B horror films for that matter. I love the shit that you don't hear about. I want to see the student film with the terrible VFX. Like, just I want to see.
Did you see Malignant? By the way,
yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that in part 2 of this after hour horror special because I love camp.
Oh, camp actually. So
no. Stop. Part 2.
Ah!
All right. Hey, all right. We love you, Steven. Cheers,
my friend. There we go. Let's drink some more.
This has been fun, man. I did not plan to record this tonight with at all. Like I was like, oh, cool new horror movie, and then me and Steven got talking about horror movies, and I was like, all right, let's record. Like
there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover in terms of like horror movies.
Much. Yeah, and like we started off with, man, there's like so many subgenres of horror, and there's some I love and some I don't really care for, and but then some that are like a dumb pleasure, right?
Look, I can't wait for you to like actually start going over this footage later and being like, I'm gonna have to edit the fuck out of this.
All right. We love you. Right. We will see you later. Check out our merch on chaoticpubcast.com. Make sure you like, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. It really helps us out. Fuck the algorithm. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Later.